The transport ship shuddered as it pierced through the storm above the alien world. Thunder rolled outside, and flashes of pale lightning lit up the endless clouds. James Carter sat strapped to his seat, his knuckles white from gripping the belt across his chest. The air inside the cabin was hot, filled with a heavy smell of metal and burned fuel. Around him, the other soldiers stayed quiet, their faces pale and tense. No one wanted to speak. No one wanted to admit they were nervous. James looked down at the weapon resting near his boots. Standard issue rifle. It felt normal, solid, dependable. Yet something about this mission didn't feel normal at all. Rumors had spread through the ranks before they launched. Whispers about strange assignments, about working with forces beyond human soldiers. James had dismissed them as wild talk. Now, with each shake of the ship, he wasn't so sure. The ship jolted hard. A voice crackled from the speakers. "Prepare for landing. Brace yourselves." Moments later, the engines roared one final time before the ship touched down with a deep metallic thud. The doors hissed open, and cold air rushed in, carrying with it the strange scent of minerals and something faintly sweet. James unstrapped and stepped out into the blinding light. Outpost Epsilon spread before him. It was larger than he had imagined. Towering silver walls lined with glowing blue panels, sharp towers that reached toward the dark sky, and a landing pad that pulsed faintly with light beneath his boots. The structures looked human at first, but there was something alien hidden in every detail. Curves where human buildings would have edges, glowing lines that moved like flowing veins under the metal. It felt alive, as though the base itself was breathing. James and the other soldiers were led through wide corridors. The walls shifted in color as they passed, pulsing with dim energy, and the floors gave a faint vibration with each step. James glanced at the others. They were as uneasy as he was. This was supposed to be a military base, yet it felt more like stepping inside the body of some great machine. Finally, they reached the command hall. At the center stood Colonel Hayes, tall and sharp, his uniform crisp and his expression carved from stone. His voice cut through the silence when he spoke. "Welcome to Outpost Epsilon," he began. "This will be your new post, your new home, and perhaps your final battlefield. The mission here is unlike anything you've faced before. And to succeed, you will not work alone." The words brought murmurs. James frowned. Not alone. What did that mean? They always worked in squads. Was this something else? Before anyone could ask, the side doors opened. Figures entered, tall, graceful, and alien. James felt his heart stop. He had seen aliens before, but only from a distance, never standing side by side like this. They were beautiful and strange all at once. One had skin like liquid glass, changing colors with each movement. Another carried glowing markings across their arms that pulsed with slow, steady light. Their eyes shone like jewels, green, amber, violet, and every gaze carried an ancient weight. But among them, one figure drew every eye. She walked forward, silent and confident. Her skin was smooth with a faint metallic sheen that shimmered between silver and blue. Her hair fell in soft waves, dark with streaks of violet that caught the light. And her eyes, James froze when he saw them. They were large, luminous, and shifting between turquoise and violet, glowing as though stars had been trapped inside them. Colonel Hayes turned toward James. His voice was calm but final. "Carter, meet Liara. From this moment on, she is your assigned partner. Your missions, your survival, your success are tied together." The room went still. Some soldiers whispered under their breath. Others stared openly. James felt his pulse quicken. An alien partner? A one-to-one assignment? This had never happened before. Liara stepped closer. Her movements were smooth, almost like flowing water. She tilted her head slightly, studying James. When she spoke, her voice was clear, soft yet commanding, with a rhythm that almost sounded like music. "You are Carter," she said. "From today, your path and my path are the same." James swallowed hard. He didn't know what to say. Finally, he gave a small nod. "Yeah, I guess we're partners." The colonel's voice snapped again, pulling them both back. "Training begins at dawn. You'll eat, train, and fight side by side. Fail, and you both fail. There are no second chances. The task before us is dangerous, It made aside more than just a future of this outpost. It made aside the future of two worlds. The words echoed in James's mind long after the meeting ended. That night, alone in his quarters, he lay awake. He thought about Liara's eyes, about the calm strength in her voice. He thought about the way she had looked at him, not with fear, but with expectation, as though she already knew something about him he didn't know himself. Then the alarm siren screamed. A deep, blaring sound shook the walls, flashing red lights across his room. James leapt from his bed, heart racing. He ran to the window. Outside, along the dark horizon, movement flashed like shadows darting through mist. Lights flickered, weapons flared. The base-wide announcement came over the speakers, cold and sharp. Warning: perimeter breach. Enemy forces detected. All units report to defense stations. James grabbed his gear, his first real night at the base, and already the fight had come to them. And for the first time in his life, he would not fight alone. He would fight side by side with Liara. And whatever this mission was, it had just begun. The siren screamed across Outpost Epsilon. Red lights flashed along the corridors as soldiers rushed past, boots pounding against the floor. James Carter grabbed his rifle and sprinted toward the defense wall, his heart hammering. He had been in battles before, but something about this night felt heavier. The air itself seemed charged, as if the base knew what was coming. Ahead, Liara appeared from another hallway. Her silver-blue skin glowed faintly under the alarm lights, and her eyes burned brighter than before, deep turquoise shifting into violet. She moved with calm, measured steps, while every human around them ran in panic. James almost tripped trying to keep up. "Do you know what's out there?" he asked, breathless. Liara's head turned slightly toward him, her expression unreadable. "They are called the Keth," she said. "Predators. Fast. Ruthless. They test your fear before they test your strength." James frowned. He had never heard the name before. "And you fought them?" Her gaze lingered on him for a moment before she looked forward again. "I survived them." That answer chilled him more than the alarms. The defense wall loomed ahead. Searchlights cut across the night, revealing strange shadows moving beyond the perimeter fences. The mist outside shifted unnaturally, almost alive, and then James saw them. The Keth were nothing like the aliens he had met earlier. They were twisted and sharp, their bodies long and armored with black, jagged plates. Their eyes glowed red in the dark. Clawed limbs carried them on all fours, but they moved with unnatural speed. Their mouths split open with sound like metal grinding on stone. "Positions!" Colonel Hayes shouted from the wall. "Do not let them breach." Gunfire erupted as human soldiers opened fire. The Keth shrieked and darted forward, faster than James thought possible. Bullets tore through some, but others leapt over barriers, landing on the wall with clawed hands. The night exploded into chaos. James raised his rifle, firing into the blur shadows. One of the creatures lunged at him, its claws flashing. Before he could even react, a streak of light shot past him. Liara, her hand glowed with pulsing energy, and when she struck, the Keth's body shattered backward, crashing into the wall. James froze, stunned. She hadn't fired a weapon. She had become one. Energy swirled around her arms, dancing in bright patterns across her skin and armor. "Move, Carter!" she shouted, her voice carrying like command. James snapped back into action. He fired at another Keth climbing the wall. The creature screeched, fell, and vanished into the mist. More came, swarming from every side. Liara fought like nothing James had ever seen. She didn't panic, didn't hesitate. She flowed between movements, dodging, striking, blasting with energy bursts that tore the air apart. James found himself drawn to her rhythm. Whenever she moved, he adjusted. When she attacked, he covered her flank. It was like fighting in sync with someone he had known for years, not someone he had just met. But the Keth were relentless. One leapt from the shadows, bigger than the rest. Its claws ripped through a human soldier nearby, throwing him off the wall. James turned too late. The beast was already upon him. He raised his rifle, but the Keth struck it aside, claws slashing down toward his chest. Time slowed. James knew he couldn't stop it. And then Liara was there. She moved faster than his eyes could follow. Her hand shot out, glowing brighter than before, and she pressed it to the Keth's chest. A blast of pure energy erupted, throwing the creature backward in a wave of light. It screeched once, then dissolved into smoke. James staggered back, chest heaving. He stared at her, wide-eyed. "You saved my life." Liara's glowing eyes fixed on him. For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. "Not saved. Protected. You are my partner. If you fall, I fall." The words struck deeper than James expected. She didn't say it with duty. She said it with certainty, as if it was a truth written in her very blood. The battle raged on for what felt like hours. Eventually, the Keth pulled back, retreating into the mist with shrieks that faded into the night. The defense wall was scorched, bodies lined the ground, and the air smelled of smoke and blood. When silence finally came, James lowered his weapon, his arms trembling. Around him, soldiers were catching their breath, tending to the wounded, but his eyes stayed on Liara. She stood tall, her glowing skin dimming slightly as the energy faded. Her face was calm, her eyes steady, but James could see something behind them. Something heavy, something she wasn't saying. Colonel Hayes' voice broke the silence. This was only a test. They wanted to see how we would respond. Next time, they won't stop at the wall. James clenched his fists. He knew Hayes was right. And he knew something else, too. Without Liara, he wouldn't have survived this night. As he looked at her, the truth settled in. His life and hers were now bound. And whatever the mission was, it was going to change him forever. The morning after the battle came too quickly. The base was quiet, but it wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence of exhaustion. Smoke still rose from the outer walls, and repair crews worked nonstop to patch the damage. James Carter walked through the corridors with heavy steps, his mind replaying the fight over and over. The face of the Keth still haunted him. The red, glowing eyes, the sharp claws, the moment he almost died. And then the image of Liara standing in front of him, glowing like living lightning, saving his life in an instant. He had fought alongside many soldiers before, but never like that. It was like she had known his every move, like her reflexes were already tuned to his. And it unsettled him. When he reached the training hall, Liara was already there. She stood in the center of the wide room, her combat suit reflecting the bright lights above. The energy lines across her armor pulsed faintly, as though her body itself was connected to the base. She turned when she heard him enter, her turquoise-violet eyes calm as always. "You came," she said simply. James dropped his rifle bag onto a bench. "Not like I had a choice. Colonel Hayes said we're training together now. Every day." Liara tilted her head. "Not training. Learning. Together." Before James could reply, the colonel himself entered, hands clasped behind his back. "You two did better than I expected last night," Hayes said. His voice was firm but carried a trace of approval. "But don't let it go to your heads. The Keth were only testing our defenses. When they return, they will come in force." James nodded, tightening his grip on his rifle strap. Liara's gaze didn't move from the colonel, though her eyes glimmered faintly, as if she already knew what Hayes was about to say. "That's why this partnership exists," Hayes continued. "Human and alien, side by side. You're going to learn each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses. If one of you falls, the mission fails. If you both survive, maybe the future of this base survives too." With that, he gestured toward the open training floor. "Begin." The first drills were simple. James fired at moving targets while Liara stood beside him, moving her hands in strange patterns. Blue energy burst from her palms, striking the targets James missed. Together, they cleared the room faster than he ever could alone. But Liara wasn't finished. She stepped closer to him, her voice calm but firm. "You rely too much on the weapon. The Keth move faster than bullets. You must move faster than fear." James raised an eyebrow. "Faster than fear? Easy for you to say. You've got glowing lightning hands. I've just got this." He lifted his rifle. To his surprise, Liara smiled faintly. "Just for a moment. Your weapon is not your strength. You are." Before James could answer, She raised her hand, and a pulse of energy shot toward him. He barely had time to dodge, stumbling to the side. The bolt scorched the floor where he had stood. "Hey!" he shouted. "Are you trying to kill me?" Her expression stayed calm. "No, I am teaching you to move." Again. The next bolt came even faster. James ducked, rolled, and came up aiming his rifle at her. His heart pounded, but something clicked in his chest. He fired a single shot. Liara raised her hand, and the bullet stopped midair, suspended in glowing light, before dropping harmlessly to the ground. James's mouth went dry. How did you—" She cut him off. "I told you," faster than fear. The drills continued for hours. James learned to move, to trust his instincts, to react to her signals. Sometimes she would strike out suddenly, forcing him to dodge. Sometimes she would call his name softly, making him turn just in time to catch a falling target. Slowly, painfully, he began to see the rhythm she moved with. By the end, sweat poured down his face. His muscles ached. But Liara stood calm, not even out of breath. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to see more than he could ever say. "You learn quickly," she said at last. "That is good. We will need more than speed. The Keth will return." James sat heavily on the bench, wiping his face with a towel. "You keep saying that, like you know them better than anyone else here." Liara's eyes flickered, her glow dimming for a moment. "I do," she said quietly, "because the Keth destroyed my world." The words hit James like a strike to the chest. He looked at her, but she had already turned away, her face unreadable. Colonel Hayes re-entered, his boots echoing on the floor. "Enough for today," he said. "Rest. Tomorrow we push harder. And soon you'll learn why this mission is more than defense." James leaned back, his mind spinning. Liara's words echoed in his head. The Keth destroyed my world. He had thought she was just a partner, maybe even just an assignment. But now he realized she was something else. She carried scars deeper than he could see. And if he was going to survive with her, he would have to understand those scars.